Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mr Ali, and we are joined, as always, on a Thursday evening with the real story on ZMC network as well. I hope you're all well and keeping safe. And this week we had the budget by Rishi Sunak, and it just shows that we've still got a long way to go before we are behind the COVID, and the furlough has been extended till September. As always, I like to kick off my show with the latest COVID figures, and the good news is that they are continuing to decline week on week. So the latest cases that we have for Birmingham are thus 1,204 compared to the previous week, which was 2001, a decrease of just under 800. In terms of rates of cases per 100,000 population, it is 123, which has decreased by 77 compared to the previous week. In terms of those wards which are the highest, please make a note if you reside in those, or if you have family and friends, or you have to go there for work. It is Soho and Jewellery ward, which has Jewellery Quarter ward, which has 236, followed by Handsworth, which has 228, Bromford and Hodgill, which has 203. Then in Joint Places, Garrett's Green, and then followed by Gravely Hill, which has 194, and then finally Hall Green, which has 193. These are the top 6 wards which have the highest cases per 100,000 population as well. And in terms of where we are, something that is a real success story is the number of vaccines that have been vaccinated. So to date, there are 22 million people that have now been vaccinated, a real testament to the hard work and the professionalism shown by the NHS professionals. In terms of the second dose now, that is now over 800,000 people that have now been vaccinated. And the good news is that it's been shown, certainly the AstraZeneca vaccine, that after the first dose, as much as 80% less chance of developing severe symptoms, which means that you have to be admitted to hospital as well. So today we are going to be dedicating the show to the census, which is going to be released on Sunday, the 21st of March. And this is something that it is compulsory, it is mandatory for everyone to complete, and everyone's interest to complete as well. And you should be getting the letter through the post anytime soon. This year, however, it is different in the sense that you will be given a unique passcode and a PIN number for you to access your census through online digital. So something slightly different, but however, census have provided individuals and teams locally that can help you to get access to the online, and also to help you complete as well. If you are really struggling and you insist on having a paper form, that can also be arranged. Thank you. So today we have a young man who is working for census by the name of Zaid Hussain, who is very active now on the scene around B8 and the inner city Birmingham, who's going to help me to navigate and shed light on this particular. First of all, huge and a warm welcome to you, Brother Zaid, on ZMC Network. We're talking about census. It is something that people aren't really sure what census mean or what it entails. Do you want to just give a bit of a background as to what is the census and why is it important, and what does the local government and the national government use it for?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ali, and I'm delighted to be on ZMC Network, and I look forward to coming on here a lot more. The census is a survey which takes place once every 10 years, and it pictures us an image of the people who live and the households that live obviously in England and in Wales. So the census is for England and Wales, and not for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Scotland have their own, and Northern Ireland have their own. I think the Northern Ireland, Scotland one's next year. So 2021 is the census year, and the last census was 2011. And of course, these data and the numbers that we have are used for a number of things. Local authorities, charities, local governments all use this to help us with our services such as transport, healthcare, education. And without the census, it will be very difficult to provide and improve these such services. And so I was given the job of being an advisor to the ONS and working as a community advisor for the Somali community in particular, a community which generally is a bit absent from the government records and data. So I've been working around the community centres, mosques, community hubs, cafes, and so on. So my energy was focused to that. But I'm delighted to be here, and I am ready to help anyone who needs any information or has some queries and questions.
Thank you. That's really appreciative, Zaid. So, for those of you that are listening, that are watching, please either put your comments on Facebook, on the social media channels, or if you want to dial in, then please, by all means, do so as well and put those questions to Zaid. So, you mentioned about helping the communities to get an understanding and make sure that they complete the census. And when you are talking to the Somalian community, to the wider BAME community, are they familiar with the census, or do you have to explain that this is something that's going on for over 100 years now, and it is a data collection tool that, as you mentioned, statutory agencies are using in order for them to plan for the future?
Yes. So obviously, with regards to the BAME community, you face a lot of challenges, and it is not predominantly their fault, to be honest with you, because in the previous census, the people that used to represent these communities were not directly from these communities generally. And so when you come to these communities, be it the Pakistani or the Somali community or the Bangladeshi or Indian, they have a distrust in anyone not from their community who specially brings initiatives that are from governments. And the first thing, obviously, is my data going to be safe? My personal information going to be safe? Why does the government care about me? And issues like this, and a huge mistrust that they have in government. So it is not predominantly their fault. It is a huge a lack of communication between local government and the population. So there are a number of challenges you face. Me being from the Somali community, I think I found it a lot more easier to communicate with them. But then there's another problem also, that people are not aware of the census. Obviously, it happens once every 10 years, and so people are not going to pay that much attention to it. But what people fail to understand is it is a legal obligation, and it is the betterment for our communities. So the more people that get involved and participate, the better it will become.
Most definitely, Zaid. And I want to just touch on the point when I've asked people to look out for the envelopes that will be coming with all their login details. I remember completing it 10 years ago, and it is a wholesome questionnaire. He asks you a lot of nitty gritty questions. You're thinking, why on earth are they asking that? But they
Yeah.
just want to get real insight into your interests, your household, and anything about you, so they can sort of compile that data. And when I've sort of asked people to look out for it, make sure they complete it, some sort of responses have been a bit mixed, in terms of some people are worried about it may impact on their benefit, that because if we declare the truth, then it may reduce our income support or universal credit. Also, other people are also concerned about maybe relation status, that they may have been here 20 or 30, 40 years, whatever the past is, and they don't want to declare anything, or they don't want to include someone who may have come here with not through the proper legal framework as well, or the legal channels. So there's a lot of, as you said, there's a lot of sort of people that probably want to apply or want to complete it, but are just worried that it may come back to haunt them.
Yeah, I completely agree. One thing that I want to stress, Mr. Ali, and to the viewers, is that the data is going to be safe. So I've got a statement from the owners itself, The safety of your information is our top priority at the Office for National Statistics. No one can identify you in the census statistics, and it's not going to be published. The only time it's going to be published is in the next 100 years' time. And so that's when it's going to be public. So 100 years from now, it's going to be public and people are able to access it then. And I think we're not going to be here by then. Hopefully, some people are going to be passing 100, inshallah, but the majority of us are not going to be around to see that. So I think people should not worry about it at all.
Yeah, no, thank you for that reassuring message. So, Zaid, I think what I certainly find is when you explain in detail the census and the benefit that it's going to be of to the community or to the area or to the immediate family, what I see is a greater buy-in. So I think I'm going to spend the next maybe 5 to 10 minutes just talking about how completing this census is going to be of benefit. We know people from a BAME background are, in terms of their socioeconomic status, are in the lower strata. We know young people from a BAME community are 30% more likely to be unemployed compared to their white counterparts as well. We know also in terms of our housing that there's lack of affordable housing, and we tend to live in multi-generational overcrowding housing as well, and that's really come to highlight, especially in the COVID, where people we live in overcrowded multi-generational, we are far more susceptible to the coronavirus and many other inequalities as well. And also, the other thing I want to mention is the health inequality as well, Zaid, where we know that our people are generally have poor access to health, and also those good initiatives that are run by the clinical commissioning groups, by the council or the government, because they have lack of local champions like yourself in the Somalian community, myself in the Pakistani Kashmiri community, the uptake of those excellent initiatives in terms of screening for cancer, for diabetes, for fatty liver disease, and many other health conditions, that tends to be a very low uptake as well. So I think I want to sort of give you a chance now also for you to just to explain why is it important for us to complete these and what benefit will it have for us?
Yes. Well, me as I represent the Somali community and predominantly the Muslim community and the BAME community, I think the word BAME, it's a word which needs to be unpacked. There are many groups within this, and it is sad for the government and local government to just paint one brush of the BAME
Yeah.
on communities like ours. So I think each community has its own challenges and problems, but there are issues that overlap one another. So issues that people face are living in deprived areas, pollution, health inequality. There's many things that need to be done. And the census is one of the ways where you show your numbers. And I think if people understand how lobbying government and changing and influencing policies, if people understand the way it's done, firstly, it's done with numbers. The more people there are involved in such initiatives, the better and the better chances the government will listen and open its mind to influencing policies and changes. So I think taking part in these initiatives is great. It's beneficial for us, and I think people need to understand it. It is beneficial for you and your community if you want to see the betterment of your community in the next 10 years. And be rest assured that this data will be used for the next 10 years. So there isn't that much thing you can do within them 10 years. So 10 years from now, these are the data the government will be using to implement policies and cuts, God forbid, and cuts that are going to be coming to the public services. So these are the data. So and another thing is with my community, especially the Somali community, there are a lot of people that died in the COVID period, and yet nobody knows how much. Nobody knows what age gap. Why was that much Somalis die in the COVID pandemic? We ain't got no facts and no figures and no stats for that, and that's predominantly because we don't take part in the census and other initiatives that the government puts forth. I know everything that we do is not going to be used appropriately. They're not going to use certain stats appropriately, and but it's upon us for us to stress that and to take part. It is essential for us to do so.
No, no, absolutely right. And I must say that the Somali community and the Bengali community have been decimated by coronavirus, whereas unlike the Pakistani community and the black community, we've got counselors, we've got maybe health professionals who are championing and arguing our case. However, I haven't seen the same highlight by the Somalian or the Bengali community, not by the community itself or by anyone else actually, to
Mm.
highlight the debilitating effect that it's had and the impact that it's had on that community. So I agree. So the fact that you, as a young Somalian, are quite vociferous and you're quite vocal, that's glad to see, because we need more of that. And same with the Bengali community as well. I'm going to sort of just touch on the bit about what you mentioned about how important it is to fill in, because data is everything. Whenever you are trying to do a pilot or initiative, it is all about data. People will look at what a particular demographics is, what their unemployment, what their health status, what their education situation is. And if it is below the national level or the regional level, then the authority has a duty of care, because now that it's been highlighted, to do something about it. Prime example is now that the COVID has highlighted that the Pakistani community is times three affected or likely to get COVID, and they are going to die as a result. And one of the reasons is the overcrowding in housing. Secondly, is also because we have a lot of underlying health issues as well, and we're also on the front line. Now that this data has been compiled, the local authorities, the CCGs, the government now, when hopefully the quicker this COVID is over, they will have to do something about it, because they are being made aware. They can't say, oh, we aren't aware, or this hasn't been highlighted to us as well. So I fully agree with you that we need to get this in, so we are able to, if the government is not doing it, we can go to the government and say to them, look, this is where, for example, in B10, there's a huge B11, there's a huge Somalian community. But unless that is recorded in some data, then it's very hard for you to get the necessary or get the necessary help that you need in order to upskill or improve the area and the outcomes for your community.
Yeah, yeah, I I agree.
So, sorry, Zaid, I think I got cut off there. Did you get my point, or did I get cut off
Yeah, yeah.
halfway?
No, no, I got your point fairly loud and clear.
Sorry, Zaid, I've just had some connection issues. Did you get my last point that I made
Ye-
about the data? Please, if you can
Yeah,
just answer that, that'd be great.
yeah. With regards to data that you mentioned, I think people need to also understand in terms of the census. There are ways to get funding for your communities. So this is another point that I really like to stress. Every community generally is allocated a pool of funding, whether they come under BAME or some other ethnic minority group, and so in order to claim these fundings for your public services or any community things that people like to run, or people who may need help, such as people suffer from mental illnesses or older people, transport links and stuff like this, you are able to claim funding from the government and local government. And the only way to do that is to show the numbers. And so again, it goes back to the census. And if people really understood how it worked, is if you show a number of people predominantly live in an area where there isn't a community center, for instance, or a youth club or something like that, your census data can be brought to the local authority, and in that way you are able to get funds and also open initiatives such as youth centers, as I said, and community hubs. And this is critical, and it's something that people are not aware of.
No, no, most definitely, Zaid. Talking about the Somalian community, talking about the Kashmiri community. So even though we are labelled as Pakistani, actually our roots are Kashmir, and there's a
Mm,
real growing movement and real dissatisfaction as well. That why are we labelled as Pakistani? And people are now there's a real campaign at the moment to when a question comes around ethnicity, to make sure that we tick other and write down Kashmiri as well. And if you look at the number of Kashmiri in this country, there are about 1 million people, probably even more than that. But at the moment, we are sort of all categorized as Pakistani.
mhm,
And that's not to sort of take anything away from Pakistani, but we are from an area just next to Pakistan, and that's something that we want to sort of get recognized. This million is not a small people, and last time round, I think there was only 34,000 people that actually put down that we are Kashmiri, because what they'll do is they'll put down Asian, they'll put down Pakistani, they'll put down British, they'll put down
mm,
other, and then the whole thing gets diluted.
mm,
So I know, same with your community. I mean, I would imagine that your community now in the UK, London, Manchester here, you're looking at around, I mean, 200, 250,000, I'm guessing, but
mm.
officially on figures, I would imagine you're probably only 50, 60,000.
Yeah, so the last census, 2011, we had 108,000. The figure is close to 500,000 or even more than 500,000 now. And obviously,
Wow.
it's been 10 years, so I think there's obviously an increase, a huge increase actually. And cities like London, Birmingham, and Manchester, Bristol, Cardiff also are predominantly, predominantly populated by Somalis. And you mentioned a good point,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
which I also want to go into detail with, is with regards to um, picking and choosing the box that identifies with you most. As you said you're Kashmiri, and predominantly I think people would put them Pakistani, and that's I believe could be wrong, because in essence we have the same issue as well. There's a box where it says there's Black African, and people put Black African and then not write other Somali as an ethnic group. So people miss out that. But the good thing this time is, as I have, if I've just show you, I think every household should be getting letters soon. We just got ours, and I live on Washedith Road actually. So around Hodge Hill area, Ward End, Washedith, should
Yeah.
be getting a
Yeah.
letter like this, and on it will be an access code. So everyone will have an access code. If you can see,
Yeah.
everyone will have
Yeah.
their
We can
own
see that. Yeah.
access code, which then you need to put on the website to complete the census. And good thing this time is the census is the first. It's the first digital census. Normally, we had forms like this, which are about 32 pages long, and I think people get tired by page 15. I think they just quit and throw this
Right.
in the bin. So, but for the older generation who predominantly don't like to use the online form, they can request this. They can also request this to fill in. But the issue with the form
How
that
do
I
you do
really
that,
want to
Zoid?
point
So
out.
how do you request a paper document?
So everything will be on the letter. So towards the letter, at the bottom of the letter, it will ask you if you want a paper form, call this number, and they'll send you out to you. And some areas they already send out the form because they know the people who live there took part in the previous census and they were a bit from the old generation, so they automatically get a form instead of a paper like that. But if you don't have it, there's a number at the bottom of that paper. You can request it for to come to your house. The issue with this paper that I wanted to point out, Mr. Ali, is with respect to the form. There's an issue where once you get to page 17, they ask you for your background and your ethnic group and your nationality. Your nationality would be British, so that's your nationality. But then your ethnic group is where you what you identify as. So as I said, if you're Kashmiri, because they don't have an option this time on the form. I don't know about the online form because I think they may have a box for Kashmiris because the Somalis have got it certainly this time around online. So the online one is amazing in that if you put in, so it'll come up as an ethnic group and then you put K in, and I think you'll get Kashmiri community come down as a option. Same as the Somalis, if you
Okay.
put an S in, the option will come down as Somali, and you click Somali. So it's but the form doesn't have it. So this could be the issue here. People might just put Pakistani on there or Black African on there and just move on, and they're not counted. So that's something that I need people to keep an eye on.
No, no, fantastic. Just got a couple of quite a few points on social media. Salam Ali Saab and Zaid Saab, hope you're well. Why is there not an option to select Kashmiri as an ethnicity on the census form? Simply because we haven't answered the Kashmiri or ticked the box Kashmiri in the previous census, and they don't think that we have enough numbers in this country for them to have. They can't have every ethnicity there. They will only have those that are huge numbers, and we certainly are. We just need to make sure that we answer the question rightly. How many questions are there on the form in total? And you fill it in individually or the head of the household? Right.
Okay, so that's yeah. So each household will get it. So the letter will be addressed to the householder. So anyone from the household can fill it in on behalf of the family. You don't have to fill it in individually. So one person can fill in for everyone in the household to make it much easier.
Yeah, good. Thank you. And when we are in austerity, how does the census help when there have been cutbacks after cutbacks and fundings withdrawn or ceased for community projects? Would you like to answer that, Zaid?
Yeah, yeah. So it's a good question. It's an issue that I think everyone is facing now. Austerity has caused a lot of damage in communities. One thing that I want to stress is, look, there are general elections, and in the next 10 years, there will be a general election, 2024, and you never know. You never know. Labour might come through, another party might come through. So you should plan as normal, and you should take part in it. Depending on, you never know who comes along and changes things. It's going to be a tough time. Obviously, COVID has done a lot of damage, but that does not mean that you don't take part in the census. It's a legal obligation, first of all. You could be fined £1,000 if people don't take this seriously. So it's a legal obligation, and secondly, it shouldn't deter it shouldn't deter you away from not filling it out.
No, great, thank you. And did the census team carry out an equality impact assessment, the effects of the hard to reach communities, especially of African origin, example, Somalians, Gambians, and Nigerians?
Yeah, yeah, that's a very, very good question. What I'm planning to do, hopefully after I'm done with census, because it's a temporary work which finishes in the summer, and they'll be assessing and they'll be doing a lot of evaluation. I myself will be writing my own evaluation on the census and how it was conducted, and it's going to be very interesting because I'll be making some recommendations, because there are issues that you see, and one thing people really haven't understood is those at the senior top. Have they got any clue as to how communities such as the Gambian community, Ugandan community, the Somali community, Kashmiri community, Pakistani
Absolutely.
community, what they go through? Have they? These are people who generally probably live in some village somewhere, who are given a task and they just come. There was an issue actually, to put that through. The Indian Sikh community, I believe it was the Sikh community actually, they had leaflets come out to them and to their temples where the picture had a lady with a headscarf, and they were quite offended, and rightly so, because the headscarf, this is predominantly a Muslim lady, and this should be sent to the mosques and not temples. And this goes to show that there's a disconnect between the top advisory board and the senior managers and the lower people who work at the bottom. There's a huge disconnect, and that's one of the recommendations that I'll be making my time at the honest. Yeah.
No, that's very useful, that is. And I think it's knowing those cultural, religious sensitivities and being aware of that. And I fully agree. And I want to sort of also pick on the point the one of the listeners or the viewers made around austerity. And I think for me, that gives us even more of an impetus to make sure that we, take part in these activities, whether it's a census or whether it's a general election, to make sure that we are counted in and we are considered. If there is less money, then why should other communities, just because they are recognized or they shout the loudest, they get the money? We need to also make sure that we highlight the inequality that we are facing and our youngsters are facing as well, and make sure that we draw our fair share of resources, whatever form that may be, for our areas as well. So, that's what I would say to you, Javed, in terms of your question. We're now sort of just coming towards the end of the show, Zaid. I'd like to give you an opportunity just to sort of maybe give your final concluding thoughts and remarks. Just having some technical issues with our Wi-Fi tonight, and as soon as we get those resolved, we will have Zaid back just to give his final thoughts and comments before the show draws to a close. Okay, well, we're just going to give him a couple of minutes just to do that. But in the meantime, what I will do is I will use the final few minutes to give my final thoughts to you. Is I will certainly ask everyone that is listening and watching, please do look out for the white envelope with the purple and the blue writing on there, which says Census 2021. And when it comes through, then whoever is the head of the household, please, if you can, complete it, and it is mandatory, it is compulsory. But even though there's £1,000 fine potentially if it's not completed, I think that that's the not the reason why it ought to be completed. Do this as a civic duty, do this as a community duty, in order for you to fill in the form, so the national government, the charities, the local government, and other statutory bodies as well has an indication of what the demographics, what the makeup of our communities are, in terms of how low we are performing with our boys' education in particular, with the economic prospects and the employment prospects of our young people, which may be as high as 30% in our young people. And then at the same time, we're talking about housing as well. So, the fact that they lack of affordable housing, and a lot of housing that we do residing is overcrowded and also multi-generational as well. So I hope that's useful. Just give me a second. Salam, are you okay? No, that's fine. I'm just going to give my concluding remarks if that's okay now, Brother Zaid. So I think we've got the main gist of the show. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so that was I just letting us know that he's having some technical difficulties. So I will encourage all of you to make sure that on the 21st of March, which is a Sunday, that you all go on and complete it by then as well. So you should be looking out for the white envelope. Any questions you have, Brother Zaid's number, and I will read that out to you. So you've all got that. 07940 993266. These are people that are there out at the grassroots to help you if you have any trouble logging on or getting access, or if you want to, you can also get the paper document as well. On that note, please look after yourselves and each other. Until next week, God bless.